Miss, grown-ups don't play with toys. If I went into that apartment right now, would I not find Beanie Babies? I have my Beanie Baby. Beanie Baby.
I'm looking for Beanie Babies.
They want Beanie Baby.
They're just cute. Total addiction. And I'm obsessed. Once you fall in love with them, you're all through.
Well, I guess lost a lot of money.
They were buying hundreds of them.
I wanted it so bad, they just became crazy. Addictive.
Break into shops to steal
Beanie Babies.
I would like to tell you that the story of these cuddly teddy bears is a happy story, but that would be a lie. This is a story of abuse, greed, and crime. How did a $5 teddy bear become one of the hottest speculative investments, being resold for thousands of dollars and creating mass hysteria? You see, what started out as a harmless children's toy became something very bizarre. Fortunes were made and lost during the Beanie Baby bubble, with people gambling their life savings on these plush toys. There was even a wave of crime as people tried to get their hands on them at any cost. So what really happened? To understand the madness of Beanie Babies, we first need to travel back in time to the 1940s, where a little boy is born into a severely dysfunctional family. Ty Warner was born in 1944, and he had a disturbing childhood to say the least. His mother was a paranoid schizophrenic, whilst his father would beat him and his little sister. His parents later got divorced and sent Ty to a military school for no real reason. As Ty got older, his relationship with his family got even more strained, and he and his father would frequently date the same women. It seemed that Ty was jealous of his father, and he even wanted to follow the same career path as his dad, selling children's toys. So Ty got a job at a big company selling stuffed toy dolls. And strangely, Ty seemed to have an incredible talent for predicting which toys would sell and which wouldn't. He also seemed to have a genuine love for the products, and he developed a reputation for his tireless work ethic. By the early 70s, Ty had become the company's top salesman. He was earning over $100,000 a year, which was even more than the CEO. But as Ty's success grew, so did his ego. He started driving luxury cars to business meetings. He wore outrageous neon-colored suits and fur coats, and strolled around with a cane and top hat. However, when the company decided to reduce the commissions salesmen received, and also reduce the size of the territories they could cover, Ty was furious. As a result, Ty started secretly pitching his own toy ideas to the company's clients. Unfortunately for Ty, word of this got back to the company's executives, who accused Ty of trying to steal their customers and fired him. Ty was devastated. He had now lost all sense of purpose, and he was spiraling. He became so depressed that some worried he was going to end his life. It was the 1980s, and one day, Ty said he had had a vision. He needed to start his own plush toy company. After all, this was the industry he knew so well from his years as a salesman. So why not create his own toys rather than selling someone else's? But this did not seem like a good idea. The plush toy industry was shrinking every year. Low quality toys from overseas had flooded the market, and big box stores sold them at low prices. And with the rise of new electronic toys and games, like the Nintendo Entertainment System, it seemed unlikely there'd be much demand for plush toys. But Ty said the industry simply needed something new and better, and he was confident he was the man to do it. During this time, Ty's father had passed away, leaving Ty with a $50,000 inheritance. Ty decided to use all of this as starting capital for his new company. And thus in 1986, Ty Inc. was officially created. Ty's first product for his new toy company would be stuffed Himalayan cats. So Ty went to South Korea and knocked on the doors of factories, until eventually he found a manufacturer who agreed to produce his toys. And when designing them, Ty became obsessive over making the best toy possible, focusing on every little detail and using more premium materials than other toys on the market. He also made another big decision that separated his product from competitors. Ty understuffed his toys. This meant that rather than filling the toy up with beans so it was hard and in a fixed position, his toys would be less full inside, which made them softer and more cuddly. This also made his toys much more poseable, meaning you could easily move the body parts into different positions. Once his product was finalized, he started attending trade shows to try and sell it to retailers. People definitely seemed to like these new higher quality, softer, more poseable toys, but they did notice Ty's behavior was a little odd. Whilst at the trade shows, Ty would personally brush the cats, tweeze around the eyes to accentuate their look, and use blow dryers to regularly fluff them up. If his staff who set up the displays hadn't done everything quite how he liked, he'd flip everything over and tell them to redo it so it was perfect. Ty was also very paranoid about copycats. He wrote, "Warning, if anyone dare copy our creative designs or patents without written permission, ownership of your eternal soul passes to us. Furthermore, our attorneys will see to it that life on Earth as you know it is not worth living." The irony of this was Ty himself spent a lot of time going around toy stores looking for inspiration. The brutal truth was the toy industry was cutthroat and full of people trying to steal ideas. However, after several years of trialing different toys, in 1993, Ty had an idea he was particularly excited about: a new series of plush toys that he was going to call Beanie Babies. His first design was a green frog named Legs, and there would be a total of 9 original Beanie Babies as part of the launch. This would soon rise to over 30 Beanie Babies, and each one would have the distinctive red tie tag attached. Initially though, despite Ty's excitement, the Beanie Babies were a failure. They just weren't selling that well. At that moment, it was almost unimaginable what was about to happen. Whilst most of the early Beanie Babies didn't seem to be selling very well, there was one that had caught on called Lovey the Lamb. Unfortunately, due to an issue with their suppliers, the fabric used to make Lovey could no longer be produced, and so they had to discontinue it. So when Ty's wholesale buyers came to request more of Lovey the Lamb, they were told it was no longer available. However, here's the crucial part. Instead of truthfully saying that Lovey had been discontinued due to supply chain issues, they decided to say that the item had been retired. Now of course, companies often discontinue products that aren't selling well, but to frame it as a deliberate choice to stop selling the most popular Beanie Baby that there actually was a lot of demand for had an interesting psychological effect. People started asking, wait, are other Beanie Babies going to be retired as well? And thus, there was an immediate boost in the sale of Beanie Babies. Seeing the impact this had, Ty realized retiring Beanie Babies could be a key way to increase sales, by essentially making the beanies limited edition. And this coincided with something else unexpected. Suburban mothers in Illinois had become the first serious Beanie Baby collectors. Initially, they'd claimed to just be buying them for their kids, but soon some shops started providing detailed checklists with all the Beanie Babies, including those which were still active and those which had been retired. One collector admitted, "Once you have a checklist, you don't look at what you have, you look at what you don't have." And so, whilst Beanie Babies had initially been designed as a fun children's toy, the checklists helped create a sense of competitiveness amongst adults to collect them all. Several of these mothers became obsessed, and when they couldn't find all the Beanie Babies in their local stores, they widened their search and started going to shops in other areas. The key to this was that Ty didn't sell Beanie Babies to discount stores, as he wanted every item to feel special. And he was particularly against big box stores and major chains like Toys R Us. Ty said they would put the Beanie Babies in massive bins and discount them, lowering their perceived value. So rather than selling to a small number of big shops, Ty sold to a large number of small shops. He made deals with mom and pop toy and gift shops who didn't have much bargaining power with him. But this ended up being genius, because when you went into a small store, they never had many Beanie Babies, which gave the impression they were much rarer than they actually were. Now, as the popularity of Beanie Babies increased due to these collectors, Ty introduced new Beanie Babies. And when he did this, he retired more of the old ones, so there weren't too many beanies in circulation at one time. Whilst other toy companies offered a huge variety and kept their best sellers around for a very long time, Ty wanted to ensure collecting all the Beanie Babies was still attainable. And it also made it clear that even the most popular Beanie Babies weren't safe from getting retired, so buy them while you can. This retirement strategy worked especially well due to the fact the early beanies hadn't sold well, and thus they hadn't produced many of them. As a result, when the original Beanie Babies were retired, there weren't that many of them in circulation. And due to simple supply and demand, the rarer ones shot up in value on the secondary market, where people started trading and selling Beanie Babies with each other. This intensified when one collector started a secondary market price guide, listing out the value of every issued Beanie Baby. While these prices weren't actually based on anything but wild guesswork, and were often exaggerated, the secondary market for Beanie Babies started following these numbers and treating it as their real value. These price guides introduced the concept of Beanie Babies as investments, as people could track how the prices had been increasing on the secondary market over time. Other collectors then set up their own magazines and books about Beanie Babies, further increasing demand. Interestingly, Ty was not happy with this. He wanted to sue them for creating unofficial magazines and profiting off Beanie Babies. But it soon became clear that the secondary market for Beanie Babies was dramatically increasing sales. More and more Beanie Babies were soon retired, meaning you could no longer buy them in shops and they were no longer being produced. And nothing sparks a collector's interest more than being told, you can't have it anymore. And Ty was clever. If he saw one animal wasn't selling well, he'd announce it was being retired to drive up sales and clear it out. Collectors would suddenly start buying it in bulk. Ty would also soon start advertising beanies as collectibles instead of toys. It's very unusual for a collectible to only be $5 to $10, but it worked brilliantly, as it was affordable for everyone. It was like a lottery ticket, as if you bought a beanie that was later retired, you knew you could flip it for a profit. The seed was planted in the minds of customers that they could buy a Beanie Baby for just $5 and later resell it at a higher price on the secondary market. And at first, it was fun. People were trying to complete sets, so they'd buy duplicates so they could trade with other people. Collectors would queue up outside shops ready to buy the newest Beanie Babies, hoping they'd become the next rare item. But the fad spread as people started bragging about reselling beanies for 5 times what they paid. Stories of people making money from reselling stuffed animals started to spread by word of mouth and then via the media. Collectors would sometimes buy out the entire inventory of their local gift shop, which of course lowered the supply even further. There was a slight Ponzi scheme element to it as well. If other people start collecting, your own collection increases in value, so it's beneficial to lure in new collectors. And so the idea of it being an investment spread like a virus. Now, initially, the tags on every Beanie Baby had the name of whoever designed it, but Ty later removed their names so that people would think he'd designed everything himself. He even removed the name of a little girl who designed Spook the Ghost, and she was devastated. Removing credit from a school-age girl seemed quite brutal, but the old versions of the toy that had her name on became much more valuable as they were so rare. Collectors paid up to $1,000 for it, knowing that no more would ever be produced with her name on. However, perhaps the most crucial development of all was the arrival of Ty's 12th employee, a college student called Lena Trivedi, who started working part-time for Ty in 1992. She was earning just $12 an hour, and yet she had an idea that would make Ty a billionaire. Lena suggested to Ty they add birth dates and short poems inside the tag of each Beanie Baby. Ty loved it, as it gave each beanie a bit of extra personality. So he told her to create a poem for all of the 86 Beanie Babies currently available in just 3 days. And she did, and this became an iconic part of Beanie Babies. But Lena's really big idea came in 1995, when she asked Ty if he'd heard about this exciting new thing called the internet. Ty hadn't used it before, and at the time it was mostly just used by academics. But Lena found that there were message boards starting to pop up dedicated to Beanie Babies. Lena suggested they start their own official website, Ty.com, which would be printed on every beanie tag. While some other companies had websites, they were very basic and corporate, like just stating their address and contact info, nothing consumer facing. Ty.com would go down in history as one of the first business-to-consumer websites ever launched, and essentially the first internet sensation. Ty's site had a guest book where fans could talk to each other and also buy, sell, and trade Beanie Babies. Ty also started writing messages on the website as if they were from the Beanie Babies themselves. These included hints about which items would be retired. Beanie Baby fans spent hours on the site waiting for new updates. The site frequently crashed due to overwhelming traffic. And shortly after an announcement about which beanie was retiring, they'd sell out in stores and the prices would shoot up online. Teams even formed, where one person would stay at the computer waiting for an announcement, whilst another would be at the mall on a phone call waiting to know which beanies to buy. Some speculators also flooded the rumor mill with purposely false predictions to try and manipulate the value of a certain Beanie Baby on the secondary market, claiming that they had insider info. But it wasn't just Ty.com that was driving the demand for beanies, it was also another website, eBay. Beanie Babies were the most popular product on the site, and they had their own dedicated category. At its peak, it's estimated 10% of all eBay sales were linked to Beanie Babies. The auction format helped drive the prices to even higher levels, with collectors outbidding each other, not wanting to miss out. Beanies sold for 6 times their retail price, but the rarest ones were selling for thousands. The fact that the internet was just starting to grow in popularity definitely helped create the Beanie Mania. The concept of going online and finding out which of these Beanie Babies were most valuable was something completely new and exciting. The internet also made it easier to justify people buying more Beanie Babies, as they could just go on eBay and see so many people selling them. Some even made this their full-time livelihood. One woman called herself Queenie Beanie, and she acted as a middleman, buying and selling them in large quantities. There was also an international beanie convention, and a beanie magazine that sold millions of copies. In the magazine was an ad for protectors for the Beanie Baby tags, which said, "How do you protect an investment that increases by 8,400%? Thanks to all this speculation and hype, Ty's sales in 1996 were up 10 times the previous year, hitting $280 million. And that was just official sales, not counting all the secondary market reselling. Ty then increased demand further by limiting the supply to retailers. In 1997, he told them they could only buy 36 of each beanie per month. This was partially due to supply issues, but also because Ty understood the need for demand to outweigh supply. No store could get as many beanies as it actually wanted. Ty would tell them more were coming soon, even when they weren't. But all the delays on shipping to stores just increased the hype further, which increased the resale prices further. Frantic collectors started following delivery trucks so they could buy the Beanie Babies immediately as they arrived at a store. Before long, these shipments were being hijacked by thieves. Due to the assault on delivery drivers, Ty Inc. was forced to remove their iconic heart logo from their boxes so people wouldn't know what was inside. One executive said, "If you were shipping diamonds, would you put a picture of a diamond on the box?" In another instance, a masked man entered a toy store in California with a handgun and ran off with roughly $5,000 in Beanie Babies. He didn't even bother to empty the cash register, the beanies were worth far more. Shopkeepers had to start putting the rarer Beanie Babies in locked cases. There were even beanie burglaries, with homes broken into and their entire collections stolen. The release of special edition bears, like the purple Princess Diana bear after her death, took the Beanie Mania to new levels. Stores were initially only allowed to order 12 princess bears, and so the bears quickly became worth hundreds of dollars each. Ty had managed to convince the public that these beanies were rare, even though millions of them were being manufactured in Chinese factories for between 25 and 65 cents each. But because he was selling to lots of small local stores rather than big chain stores, nobody quite realized how many Beanie Babies were being sold. The collectors who'd got in early were now sitting on 6-figure fortunes and selling some bears for over $2,000 each, even though they bought them for just $5. Stories circulated of people paying for their kids' college thanks to Beanie Babies, which helped bring in new collectors. As one economist put it, "There is nothing so disturbing to one's well-being and judgment as to see a friend get rich." Nobody wanted to miss out. These plush toys defied all industry expectations, outselling every other toy. Of course, by this point, nobody saw them as a fun toy. they were an investment, a speculative way to get rich. And thus, many started saying you should never let a child touch a Beanie Baby, as that would lower their value. Before we get to the next chapter, I have a question for you. After hearing about other entrepreneurs building their businesses, have you ever thought about starting your own? If so, you're gonna wanna know about today's sponsor, Bizee. Bizee offers a free LLC formation service. You just pay the state fees and they'll help you get your business incorporated and handle all the necessary paperwork. Bizee can not only help with choosing the right entity type, but can also help take care of the ongoing filing requirements with your state, which can be a big burden on business owners. Bizee can even provide you with a business phone number and a professional business address with mail forwarding, so you don't have to use your home address. Basically, Bizee gives entrepreneurs the tools they need to start and manage vital aspects of their business, so they can focus on serving their customers. I also like that Bizee is made for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The guys behind Bizee bootstrapped it without any investors, literally starting in a spare bedroom. Fast forward to today, and they're still founder-led with over 20 years of experience and have helped over 1 million entrepreneurs. So if you want to start your own company, Bizee makes it easier. Just use my link in the description to get started today. Ty decided to partner with McDonald's to release a line of miniature versions of the Beanie Babies called Teeny Beanies. These would be given as free gifts in McDonald's Happy Meals. Ty believed the partnership with McDonald's would help get a whole new audience interested in collecting regular-sized Beanie Babies, and help bring the craze to the mass market. In April 1997, the promotion launched, and immediately, the chaos began. McDonald's was bombarded with calls of people specifically asking which beanies were available and how many they had. Customers would order huge quantities of Happy Meals and then tell the cashier to keep the food or just throw it away. They only wanted the beanies. McDonald's quickly doubled its Happy Meal sales as people wanted to collect the full set. Others immediately started reselling them online. As a result, McDonald's stores were quickly running out of Teeny Beanies, and they had to introduce limits on how many Happy Meals each customer could buy. So, collectors started coming in wearing disguises so they could buy more. Meanwhile, an 18-year-old McDonald's employee was arrested for stealing over $6,000 worth of Teeny Beanies from the store. Just 2 weeks into the promotion, McDonald's took out ads to apologize that they were having to end the giveaway early as they'd run out of Teeny Beanies. Many employees were thankful as they'd feared for their safety as the crowds had rushed into stores. Staff wore pins that said, "I survived the attack of the Teeny Beanie Babies." Of course, all of this generated more media coverage for Beanie Babies, bringing in new collectors. As always, this increased demand, making it harder to find Beanie Babies in stores, thus increasing prices even further. Also, Ty was so product focused, he often neglected focusing on logistics and distribution, but this caused more supply shortages, which inadvertently created even more demand. The shortage also led to an increase in fake Beanie Babies, knockoffs from China that looked similar but were lower quality. The counterfeits helped increase the perception that the real thing was very valuable. Why else would there be counterfeits? So one woman started offering authentication services. You could pay $20 to have her confirm if your Beanie Baby was real or not. In 1998, it was announced Beanie Babies had $1.4 billion of sales. And so early next year, Ty announced all his employees were getting bonuses equal to their entire annual salary. But whilst Ty Inc. was making crazy amounts of money, many of the new beanie collectors certainly weren't. There were women who couldn't afford shoes for their children, but were carting wheelbarrows full of Beanie Babies. One of them said, "Yes, we are behind on our house payment, but my 15-year-old son has cerebral palsy. I tell myself he can use the proceeds from these beanies to help maintain a decent lifestyle after I'm gone." And as if things weren't crazy enough, in 1999, Jeffrey White shot a security guard. When an investigation was carried out into his death, they found the two men had been involved in a dispute over several $100s worth of Beanie Babies. Hey legends, it's John here, creator of MagnatesMedia. Just wanted to quickly share some exciting news with you. So for those who don't know, MagnatesMedia is not some big company. I literally started this channel by myself from my bedroom making terrible videos. I couldn't even afford a tripod, so I had a camera on some books, which is why the angle was a bit slanted. So I couldn't have imagined I'd be where I am now. Because now, I get to make videos about whatever topics I find interesting, and I can do it from anywhere in the world as I don't have to be on camera anymore, and I have a small team to help me. Which means that we can get super creative with the videos, like experimenting with 3D and crazy animations. It's like running your own mini film studio where you can make whatever you want. However, the problem is it took me years to figure all this out, like how the algorithm works, how to hire the right people, how to get big sponsors and make more money, all this stuff that creators never publicly talk about. So that's why I spent months and months putting everything I've learned into a simple system that anyone else can follow. For example, if you wanted to run your own channel about true crime, history, tech, finance, sport, whatever it is you're interested in, you can just follow this system I've created. I literally show you everything you need to make a full-time income from YouTube, and all the behind-the-scenes secrets of how I make the videos, and how I grew the channel from 0 to over 1.6 million subscribers. And when you sign up, you'll also get access to a community of other creators. Like, we already have successful channels who've gone through the program who you can connect with. Plus, I'm in the community myself answering questions, so you can literally ask me anything you want so you never feel stuck. Honestly, this is the system I wish I had had when I started out, as it would have saved me years of expensive and time-consuming mistakes. So, if you've ever wanted to grow your own YouTube channel, this system is perfect for you. Just click the link in the description below to claim one of the remaining spaces, or go to magnates.media/system and I'll chat with you inside the community in just a minute. In 1999, 24 new Beanie Babies were released, the largest introduction of new products they'd ever made. This was a mistake. Collectors wanted full sets, but as the amount of beanies in circulation got higher and higher, many collectors gave up. Around this time, collectors also started noticing that previous beanies were being overproduced. Initially, retired beanies were harder to find, but Ty was now producing so many that they weren't rare at all. Tens of millions were being made each year to cash in on the demand. Plus, bubbles like this require new collectors coming into the market to keep up momentum, but now demand was falling. For the first time, prices dropped. However, Ty had a plan. In August 1999, Ty announced a list of new beanies on his website along with a message. On December 31st, 1999, all beanies will be retired. Some thought Ty was losing his mind, but news that every single Beanie Baby was being retired at the start of the millennium caused a big uptick in sales and lots of media attention. eBay bidding went up 75%. But then on December 25th, just 6 days before all the Beanie Babies were supposedly going to end production, Ty posted a new message on Ty.com. After much thought, I am willing to put the fate of Beanie Babies in your hands. He went on to say that there was going to be a public vote on whether or not Beanie Babies should continue. You could pay 50 cents to vote on the future of Beanie Babies. A few days later, Ty announced over 200,000 votes had been cast, and 91% had voted in favor of continuing Beanie Babies. Some inside the company later claimed the actual vote count was lower, and said Ty had never planned to end Beanie Babies, this was just a marketing gimmick. However, the public saw through it. By the time the Beanie Babies' resurrection was officially announced, the industry, the media, and Ty's customers paid little attention. Sales tanked dramatically, falling by more than 90%, and beanies started appearing in dollar stores. Eventually there comes a point where someone buys a Beanie Baby and can't resell it for a profit, so they don't want to buy them anymore. Supply outpaces demand. Prices start spiraling downward as people lost confidence. The market becomes flooded with people looking to offload them, meaning there's no longer scarcity, and at that point, the bubble pops. Whilst looking back at the Beanie Baby frenzy now is quite comical, there were real lives affected by it. There's the story of an actor who lost his children's 6-figure college fund speculating on beanies at the peak of the market, believing they'd rise in value. There were others who got genuinely addicted and went into debt to buy more, believing this was their ticket to financial freedom. But almost all of the Beanie Babies from the 90s are today worth less than they originally cost. Meanwhile, in September 2013, Tai was charged with tax evasion. Turns out, he'd been hiding more than $100 million in a secret Swiss bank account. What's really weird is that Tai was a billionaire, and the amount of tax he was trying to avoid paying was such a tiny fraction of his net worth. What's also weird is that Tai's sentencing was very light. No jail time, just 2 years probation and 500 hours community service. The judge cited Tai's philanthropy as one of the reasons for the lenient sentence. But others pointed out that he'd only given around 2% of his current net worth to charity, which is great, but not a reason to avoid jail. Tai, who has been dubbed the Steve Jobs of Plush, continued to make new toys long after the Beanie bubble popped. He's still a multi-billionaire, all from the 3-year Beanie Baby mania. Whilst he perhaps made some mistakes towards the end, like increasing the supply too much, the reality was it was never gonna last forever. All bubbles like this can only go on as long as new people are entering the market to buy at the wildly inflated prices. We've seen this throughout history many times. There was the tulip mania in Holland in the 17th century, where tulip bulbs were being traded for more than people's annual salary. And of course, even more recently, just look at the NFT bubble and the insane prices people were paying. All of this is a fascinating insight into human psychology. But to perhaps best understand this, go check out the story of Charles Ponzi, one of the most notorious con men in history. I'll see you there. Cheers.